How's it going, guys? My name's Wilson. Some of the most forgotten All-Stars are guys who's made the team once and never became the productive player they were during their anomaly season. I made plenty of videos in the past regarding All-Star talk. Here's the link above to the 20 most forgotten All-Stars since 2000 I made over 3 years ago. It's not always easy getting recognition and praise to the next minute to being bashed constantly right after slowing down due to injuries, whether it's the wrong fit or too much pressure in big markets teams might be too overwhelming for some players to handle. With that said, let's take a look at 5 former NBA All-Stars, some of them still in their 20s, and one of them is 30, now viewed by many as just role players and even forgotten in the star conversation.
Andre Drummond of the Chicago Bulls. Many think he's at the tail end of his career in his early to even mid-30s, but guess what? Just turned 29 this past August. Absolutely shocking. His game simply not aging well, especially the lack of offense. Traditional big, gets a lot of boards, but not a great rim protector.
Numbers of 16 points, 15 rebounds on a respectable 44-win team coached by Stan Van Gundy. Compare that to his previous season of 2022 with Philly and Brooklyn. A dreadful 8 points a game, 9.3 rebounds, just under 20 minutes played. Even worse in the playoffs, a non-factor.
An age where he's supposed to be in his prime, to many thinking he'd be the missing piece for the 2021 Lakers, to now a borderline NBA player. The game has continued to change with more 3 balls, spacing, and big men having to move better. Drummond displays none of those qualities. Just a year and a half ago, making over 27 mil for Cleveland, who waived him despite the numbers. Look where the Cavs are now, to settling for 2 years 6.6, pick 9 overall out of UConn, compared to the likes of Amari Stoudemire / DeAndre Jordan. Physically gifted, combination of size, power, athleticism in college, had the tools to become a 20-point scorer if developed properly. An awful foul shooter, disappears at stretches, simply lacks the motor of others. A rebuilding Pistons franchise trusted him to be the guy way too long before realizing the lack of success wasn't paying off, playing with no other All-Stars besides 2019 Blake Griffin in the Motor City. Drummond never developed into any scoring threat. A lot of his rebounds from missed point-blank shots, bad habits, doesn't seem motivated enough to dominate, has all the talent to become an all-NBA center, given the lack of good bigs before Jokic and Embiid emerge. Some view Drummond as having atrocious court IQ similar to Russell Westbrook, but way worse since he's neither a passer or scorer. 29, 29, and 32 wins before winning 44 games in 2016. His roster didn't have all-stars, but a solid prime Reggie Jackson, Tobias Harris, KCP, and Marcus Morris. If a prime Dwight Howard had those role players, and take away Drummond, that team would seriously contend in the East, but obviously swept by LeBron's Cavs, a pathetic 11 of 34 from the line those 4 games, and rebounded by Kevin Love. A love-hate relationship with Pistons fans due to his physicality. Pistons gave him 5 years, 127 mil, was still only 22 at the time, summer 2016. If you were to pick 5 centers to build around the next 6 or 8 years back then, many would go with DeMarcus Cousins or Karl Anthony Towns 1, and Drummond would be in the discussion for 3, with Al Horford, DeAndre Jordan, and Marc Gasol already in their primes then. Embiid still hasn't made his debut. Jokic still a work in progress. After 2016, it would absolutely be shocking if Drummond never made an All-NBA team again. Due to the lack of centers, didn't seem to play that hard in 2017. Averaged 2.6 points fewer, underwhelming 37 wins, became an afterthought then. 4 rebounding titles after another All-Star appearance in 2018 as John Wall's replacement. Still hasn't developed any fundamentals, no post moves, often tries to fool around thinking he's got guard skills, only to end up in Shaq the Fool. A turnover machine all over the place, wasn't good at adapting, swept by Milwaukee. Blake's body broke down completely. The franchise and fans became impatient with Drummond's lack of growth instead of embracing the fact that he's not a franchise player or tried to use Detroit's trade as motivation. Drummond upset the franchise wasn't loyal to him when he won 0 playoff games in 7 full seasons. With only 1 year being over 500 in the weaker conference, his value diminished so badly. Traded for 2 role players and a second rounder, that was the beginning of an ugly downfall. Just 33 games with Cleveland, 17.5 points, 13 rebounds, all-star numbers on paper. The definition of empty stats, lack of work ethic as a team player, too many bloopers. After the James Harden deal that sent the younger, harder working Jared Allen to the Cavs, Drummond no longer needed, got benched for a month, flat out waived after failing to find a trade partner, only to sign with the Lakers, become their missing piece. biggest memory being on the classic meme imitating LeBron, even signed for the vet minimum, as useless and worthless as his NFTs. The Lakers hasn't been the same since, received one DMP from playoff Frank Vogel, signed with Philly after only to be included in the Harden package, to jinx in Brooklyn again with the antics, swept in 2022, a career 2-15 playoff record, an absolute travesty. His All-Star days feel like ages ago, much more remembered as a curse for teams viewed as contenders sadly, a backup big who's unplayable come playoff time. Victor Oladipo took him a while to find his rhythm back. The second pick 2013 class, athletic two-way guard, deemed as a hard worker, a solid player his first 3 seasons on a terrible Orlando franchise, then traded to OKC to be Westbrook's second option, underperformed, put up less than 11 a game on 34% shooting 5 games first round versus Houston.
But after being included in the Paul George trade, Oladipo credits Russ Westbrook for his work ethic, had a breakout 2018 All-Star season, career best of 23 points, 5 rebounds, 2.4 steals, led the league in that category. His first of 2 All-Star appearances, had a way better season than PG that year, but his last 8 games with Miami in 2022, when he came to the season much later on, 12.4 points, just 3 rebounds in under 22 minutes off the bench. His 15 games in the 2022 playoff run, very similar.
Shown flashes of D-Wade with Indy, one of the surprisingly good teams, viewed as a lottery squad with PG gone, but won 6 more games than the previous year, 48 wins, most improved player, all defensive first team, all NBA third team, even took LeBron's Cavs to 7. The 26-year-old's future viewed bright, but after the devastating rupture quad tendon on his right knee January 23rd of 2019 made his return to the Pacers 371 days later, came off the bench. The team played surprisingly well and even made the playoffs without him. Tensions began to flare with him and the franchise, expected to earn a huge payday during free agency, initially didn't want to play in the bubble. Rumors he wanted to play elsewhere, but changed his mind to join the Pacers and Disney. A combination of injuries and bad play, 14.5 points on 34% shooting, 19 games in 2020, from being viewed a top 15 player to not even top 50, rejected $112 million from the Pacers, part of that Houston, Brooklyn, Cleveland Harden trade, sent to the Rockets, lasted 20 games, then turned down 2 years worth $45.2 extension, then traded to Miami, being on 3 different teams in less than a 3-month span. All his lower body injuries throughout his career became a huge concern, labeled in the Isaiah Thomas DeMarcus Cousins conversation. Former stars who were up for a big contract only to have injuries ruin it, signed for 1 year 2.4 of the Heat, an absolute travesty of a letdown, unless he's totally happy with it. The team he's been wanting to go all along, just 4 games, tore his quad, the same knee from 2019, returned 11 months later, viewed as damaged goods, declined athleticism, a massive reset, 96 total regular season games the last 4 seasons, still has it on defense from guarding James Harden and having his moments on Jaylen Brown in the postseason, received 2 years 18 from Miami, fully guaranteed, $20 million less than Houston. The health concerns his biggest issue. In the Vince Carter Show podcast over the summer, Oladipo simply needs to back up his words, otherwise the critics will come after him.
What are you trying to prove internally or to the world? Great question. That I'm one of the best players in the world, period.
Julius Randle, all of a sudden, from beloved, most improved player 2021, leading the Knicks back to the postseason, ending an 8-year drought, to receiving boost and being an absolute travesty at the Garden, to lashing out in frustration with the hostility of the New York media when his team does bad.
The 27-year-old will enter season 9, spectacular regular season numbers of 24 points, 10 and 6 in 2021, a heavy workload from Tibbs, playing nearly 38 minutes a game, to just falling off to 20 points, 10 rebounds and 5 assists on a super poor 41% shooting as a 6'8" power forward, for redeeming himself after being mocked at, laughed at, for being the only one signing with the Knicks in the 2019 free agency instead of getting KD and Kyrie.
A 40 and 31 record 2021 when playing, to just 32 and 40 the year after, very out of control, forces the action too much. 2021 looking like an outlier by the day, labeled as a fake star. Not only was his bad play frustrating, a combination of losing his temper, bad leadership, frustrated at teammates, and the biggest market where millions watching his every move, the former 7 pick had high expectations, underwhelmed with the Lakers' solid 2019 season with New Orleans turned it around, but his team still wasn't winning much. Not a great defender, New York gambled 3 years, 62 mil, not a great floor spacer, all NBA second team, hit some unbelievable shots, made many people lose their minds, believing he was even better than prime Chris Bosh, a versatile offensive game, but exposed versus the Hawks when drawn with double teams, forced him right, couldn't do anything, failed to adapt, average 18 and 11, 29% shooting from the field, 42% true shooting, while not giving much on defense, a true negative, earned him 4 years, 117 extension after his first playoff berth in year 7, proven to not even be close as a reliable first option. Instead of embracing the challenge, drew a thumbs down to the Knicks crowd when booed, brushed off teammate Evan Fournier when having a bad game, poor sportsmanship, 2 games of shooting 1 of 9, 15 total under 30% from the field. Many Knicks fans want him out ASAP, stylistically improving on his defense and making the hustle plays more while pushing the ball ahead, used as his third option instead of forcing the offense, would be how Randle can redeem himself. The attitude during the losing times can't be acting too emotional. D'Angelo Russell, the second pick of the 2015 draft, now viewed as an afterthought, the word star and D-Lo not even crossing people's minds right now. When thinking about him, now 26, already heading into year 8, not a franchise player, underwhelming with Minnesota, especially the ugly postseason, got benched. His lone all-star year 2019 with the Nets, the team had a great bond, no pressure, nothing to lose, ran the offense, 21 a game, 7 assists on a 42-win team before Kyrie and KD took over, shipped it to Golden State, played just 4 games with an injured Steph Curry, that's all she wrote.
His recent 2022 numbers, not so far off from the 2019 season, but even as a third option, super streaky, below average, way too many times playing, supposed to be viewed as a top 10 point guard by now, after labeled as a bad teammate, selfish, and even disrespected by Magic Johnson. Combined with the Swaggy P incident, Russell restored his name with the Nets, only to be viewed negative again.
The bad habits in crunch time, unforced turnovers, deemed as a very poor man's version of James Harden, without the strength and beard of course, to finish underneath, too much hero ball, takes many deep outside shots and not a great shooter, the lack of effort on D, not super athletic, poor defense, has the talent but limited, making over 31 mil next season, unlikely to get another fat contract, viewed more in the $15 to $20 million range, had a record of 11 and 34 with the 2020 Warriors, continues to be injury prone, takes him a while to find a rhythm, but showing flashes of being all-star caliber, but a long way to climb, especially with newer, younger, and more talented players coming into the league every year, combined with a bad reputation from the start, never fit in with Golden State, that Wiggins trade becoming more laughable, now only glimpses of good play, the bad possessions more eye-popping, overcoming the good. Has to rely too much on outside shots. Every team that he plays for, way better off without him. At least he already got a max deal. His best case, coming off the bench as a 6th man with the second unit, the superstar potential written off, but being a 6-man candidate can be the best fit for Russell on a playoff caliber team. Kristaps Porzingis, hated and disrespected by Knicks fans. His career hasn't been the same since tearing his ACL 4 years ago.
Looked at as a franchise player, 48 games in the 2018 season, averaged nearly 23.7 rebounds, 2.4 blocks, one of the most lethal defenders and rim protectors at the time, being 7'3", insane length, played just 51 games in 2022, numbers of 20 and 8, 1.6 blocks, plays like a stretch 4 at times, attempts too many threes, and doesn't punish guys in the paint consistently, one of the more frustrating players to watch, still only 27, should be in his prime.
Was only 22 when drawing comparisons whether he's the best player in his class versus Karl Anthony Towns, or would teams rather start a franchise with Porzingis over Anthony Davis? When demanded out of New York, looking back, the trade wasn't awful. KP and Luka supposed to be the next big duel, even anticipated to be the better version of Nash and Nowitzki. KP forced to be a floor spacer, even became a liability on D, only showing superstar level plays in small stretches, nowhere near jumping as high, combined with the New York media hyping him up, pretty much a role player with Rick Carlisle, injured at the wrong time in the bubble playoffs, had a chance to prove himself 2021 versus Clippers, but a dreadful 13.5 rebound average, failed to get it done, paid till 2024, Making over 33 with Washington after a 5-year max in 2019, Porzingis literally didn't play an NBA game for 18 long months after that knee injury. Even his earlier days with New York tends to start the season strongly but gets fatigued way too quickly halfway and struggles mightily. Super high center of gravity, endless injuries, missed at least 25 games a season, not counting his first 2 years. Not the best built physically, doesn't seem like he'll ever have the muscle frame of a Giannis or an Embiid. All in all, the Knicks dodged the bullet financially, would have been heavily booed if still in New York, saved himself from Julius Randle criticism, too many times working back from injury. Dallas just gave up on him and became better with Spencer Dinwiddie, while Washington's still a bad team, doesn't appear to be good enough as a first option on any playoff caliber team, his days being a number 1 option a thing in the past. Porzingis now viewed as a luxury if he can play at least 58 games a season, which hasn't happened since year 2. Being a second option on a good team might not even be enough for KP going forward.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Which one of these current players were you most shocked by their downfall? Oladipo just turned 30 years old. His offense simply regressed. Still the same player defensively at times, embodies what he coaches all about. The number 3 or 4 guy on offense shouldn't be too bad, which I wouldn't be shocked. While Andre Drummond, if he gets traded mid-season from the Bulls, I mean, what can I say about him? Given teams are passing him like a hot potato, will he even last 2 more seasons with the NBA? How much longer will Julius Randle last with the Knicks? Unless he plays more efficiently, the boos will keep coming. D'Angelo Russell appears to be journeyman by now. I won't be shocked if Minnesota trades him. While Kristaps Porzingis, a bad mix, being tall and a fragile body, combined with being a very bad rebounder for his size, will he ever play 70 games in a full season again? Who knows? We'll find out pretty soon. Thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe for more content, more good stuff coming soon. I love all of you. See you next time.